Hello again. Welcome back to your 5-minute devotional stop with me, Amy Phillips. I'm on a journey moving from fear to faith, and I hope you'll join me for Just Believe. Hello, friends. So as I mentioned before, I just took my first child and dropped him off at college. I have heard that every kid is different when taking them to college. For some kids, there's a mourning for months ahead of time. That was me. And for some, the parent is just ready to drop that kid off, send them out, they're singing to themselves all the way home. But I was reminded the day after dropping him off of how when I brought him home from the hospital, I had held him up to the Lord and I said, "Thank you so much for this gift. Thank you for loaning him to us for a while because he's yours before he's mine. So I dedicate him and his life to you." Now, of course, that's easy to say when you still have this baby and many years that follow, where you continue to care for them, even though you gave them over to God. But the Lord reminded me of it because I needed that reminder. He said, "Remember you gave him over to me." I said, "Oh yeah." But this time I said it again. I said, "Thank you, God, truly for the gift of my children. They are yours before they're mine. And this time I give him back because I am no longer needed to be that primary caretaker. I'm no longer fully needed in the role of guide, mentor, comforter, because now it has to be God who becomes his master and Lord. Not that I'm not going to have some say in things in his life, but I need to take second seat and even third seat eventually to a wife. But this decision we make to have a child, or maybe you didn't make the decision, but you still created the opportunity to have one. Sometimes we do this lightly, and sometimes we may think long and hard and try to be prepared. But however your child came into the world, your life gets taken over by them. All your thoughts tend to protecting them and making sure that this little person or persons have all that they need because they are a gift God has given you to steward. The truth is, when you're in the season of child raising, your whole life revolves, to a healthy extent, around your children. But I'm really seeing now that these children that we are given were always meant to be sent. Psalm 127 tells us, like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. They were always meant to be sent, to be shot out into the world, to do and to be who God has called them to be. They were never meant to be kept or harnessed or controlled in our homes. They were meant to be free, to be independent and become their own person. It's a beautiful thing, even though it hurts. But it's also joy when we get to see them released into what God has made them to do. I had a picture come to me this week. I was singing that song about God being the potter and I am the clay. And I saw this picture of me on the potter's wheel. Now, I wasn't even thinking about my son. But as I was looking at the pot, I saw a little pot that was forming inside of my bigger pot. And I was helping to form it just by being formed around the little pot. I wasn't actually using clay arms or anything to do so, but it was inside my pot that he was being formed as I was being formed by the master potter. Then a time came when the pot had grown and was taken out and put on its own wheel right in front of my wheel. And I saw these little clay arms reach out of my pot to the other pot, and the potter kept having to mold those arms back into the clay over and over again. It was a hard process for that big pot. I wanted to keep my hands on the little pot instead of letting the little pot be on its own wheel and allowing them to be on the master potter's wheel just as I was. Just what a picture. There does come a time when we are no longer called to be like a lowercase God to this little one. We are to give them over to the master potter so he can form it into what he wants. And the faster we give them over, the faster the potter can begin to do other things in us, and our children can find their way with their master as well. So I saw myself take my eyes off my child and put them right back onto the master potter and allowed him to continue to form me into what he would have for me. I mean, there's trust there, right? That we would say, God has my son, my daughter, or even your husband, your wife, your parents, that I don't need to try to form them. I only need to be formed by the loving hands of my Father. It's really a message for us at any step on the way in this parenting journey. They really aren't ours. They are precious ones that God spoke into existence and chose for this very time and with this very DNA to be alive. It's a lifelong journey to keep giving that child back to God, remembering that He loves them so much more than we do. You may still be in the forming phase, and they're near to you still, but even then, you are not the master potter. We have to lean into Him and away from fear that tries to, even when they're little, control them and make them be the way that we want them to be. Again, we can either be faith parents or fear parents. Faith parents lean into a good father who has a plan and a purpose for their children, and it brings our children freedom. A faith parent trusts that the Father is guiding us and He's guiding them. He's loving us and He's loving them. Even if our children are writing their testimonies in ways we wish they wouldn't, it will be their story to tell of the works of the Lord in their life. Because we can't keep them from all harm or from doing harm to themselves or others, but we can fully surrender them to the Lord so that He will have His way in them. And when the time is right, we can allow the Lord's kind and skillful hands to move them onto their own wheel, their own life apart from ours, to be used and sent out for the kingdom of heaven. I am praying for you in whatever season you find yourself in with the children in your life. God is working. He is hearing your prayers. Don't lose heart, but believe. The master potter is at work, and He won't let your children fall off the wheel. I speak over your children and maybe grandchildren the words I've spoken over my children many times from Isaiah 54. All your children will be taught by the Lord, and great will be their peace. Do not fear, friends. Just believe. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you feel encouraged and strengthened. If you want to connect with me, you can find me at amybphillips.com. See you next time.